Hey guys, Sam here again, and today I'm going through step 3 in our AIR framework of how to automate your business, which is the refine step. So just to quickly recap, this is a simple 3-step process that we've developed to help you think about how you can start automating parts of your business and adopt more of a process and automation mindset so you can make a more efficient business over time. So very simple. All you need to do to get started is follow these 3 videos. We've already covered the assess phase, which is where you can start to plan out where it makes the most sense for you to look at automation. Then we've got the implement phase, which is thinking about how we're actually going to take a process that we already have and then implement AI into it or automation into it. And now we're going to look at the refined stage, which is, okay, well, now we've implemented an automation or an AI workflow. How do we actually refine and optimize it over time? So first off, let's just talk about what would happen if we didn't do that. So I'm back on our whimsical board that we've created over the past 2 videos. By the way, if you want to catch those 2 videos, you can see them linked in the description below. They're very short. This is a short series that I wanted to do just to help businesses think about these things. So if we do the first 2 steps without the third, we do the assess, we do the implementation, but we never look back and refine what we've built. These are the issues that are likely to arise. Now, the first thing, that's kind of the most obvious one, is the initial automation or AI workflow implementations are rarely perfect. So they always require some sort of fine tuning once you've started to use them and you can see the output that you are getting from the workflow. In our previous example, we were talking about our content production process. We set up these 3 different assistants here. Now, it's highly unlikely you're going to have the perfect prompt out of the gate. It's highly unlikely that they're all going to interact with each other perfectly out of the gate. So this is going to need tweaking and it's going to need some extra effort to optimize over time. So that's what we're going to get into in today's video. We're going to take that example a little bit further. But before we do, one other thing to also bear in mind is that business requirements change over time. Your business is constantly evolving. If you just let one automation run forever, it's likely that that's going to get outdated quite quickly. So, you want to update and optimize and refine your automations based off of what your business requirements are as your business changes over time. Then we've got missed insights from usage patterns. What this means is, once we set up an automation and it's running for us, usually it's being managed by somebody in the team. So again, let's take our content production process that we did in the last video. The account manager for the SEO agency here is in charge of this process, and they are going to be using and interacting with this workflow on a regular basis. There's going to be insights that they get from interacting with this workflow that we would not have thought about previously. And those insights are really important because they help us optimize and gain more efficiencies by baking those insights back into a refinement process. Kind of related to the business requirements change over time, as I've already mentioned, the systems wouldn't evolve with business growth if you didn't do this, and that would actually cause you some problems. And more importantly, your performance gains would plateau rather than improve. What we're trying to do is keep refining here so that you can keep seeing the marginal improvements, the 10% improvements every few months. Once you've gathered the feedback, you've understood the usage patterns, we can tweak things. Those improvements over time compound to make really big business results. So they're the things that we're going to run into if we don't do this refined step at the end. And it's where I see most people fail. They'll set things up, but they'll have a terrible process of refining. And I suppose the reason why I'm going to hammer this point home is because as business owners, we're trying to adopt an automation mindset, a process-driven mindset, an efficiency mindset that is going to improve our business over time. And if we just, think of automation as this one-time thing where we jump in, we automate a quick process, and then we kind of leave it and we get on with everything else and we never look at it again. We're not really adopting that improvement mindset. And that's what automation is really. It's just part of that process. So now that we've done that, let's just recap our content production process. This is what we had originally. So this was the process that we started with. It was all manual. So, we would have the writer review the keyword research and content plan. They would do the competitor research. They'd create a brief for a writer. The writer would then be sent a brief, and the writer was, by this specific company, was being hired on Upwork. They had multiple writers that they were hiring on Upwork. The writer would then deliver the first draft. The account manager reviews the content, provides edits and requests. This was the painful loop that was taking time and costing a lot of money. And then we would use ChatGPT to create the correct formatting for the CMS system that they were using, and then a final review and publish. So again, if you want to learn more about this specifically in a bit more detail, check the previous videos. And then this is the optimized version that we started with, or should I say the first draft of the automation that we started with. We kept a bunch of the stuff manual because trying to over automate out of the gate is something that can lead to a lot of problems. And we really focused in on this piece here, which is the expensive and time consuming part. And we made this better by trying to remove the writers from the process so that we could speed things up and have more control over the output with content production assistants and custom GPTs. So we then looked at building a custom content production assistant that could be fed the brief rather than it going to a writer. To produce an output, then we would want a checking assistant here. So this is like a quality assurance assistant. It's going to take the content produced, it's going to check it against the criteria, it's going to rank it. If it matches the criteria and it passes, then again, it will come back to a formatting assistant that will create the formatting needed to publish on the website. So these were the three things that we implemented. Now, once this got rolled out, we had a team member that was basically in charge of running this whole process for 40 clients, right? So 40 clients every month would be running through this process. They have 4 new pieces of content that need to be produced for each of them every month. So it's a lot of content that's getting produced here. So 160 pieces of content. That content is of varying different types and styles. So one of the things that we noticed after we'd run this for 30 days was actually that this content production assistant was a little bit inconsistent. And what was happening was the checking assistant was doing its best, but at the end here, there was still too much time being spent actually going back to this step and editing. So kind of like how we were doing here with an account manager reviewing the content and providing edits and requests. We were just doing edits here. The account manager was doing a lot of edits and it was taking more time than we wanted. So we had to then think, well, why is that happening? All right. So why? Why is there so much time being spent reviewing? And there are a couple of reasons that we identified. The first one being that actually we produce different types of content here. We have service pages. So this SEO agency was working for local businesses. So they would be providing a service in a local geography. So we had different types of content that needed to be produced. We'd have service pages in X area. So, X service in Y area, should we say? But then we also had articles. So, sort of like blogs, articles, which are very different to service pages. And then we would also have case studies as well. So case studies that were being produced for the specific clients. And there'd be a mixed bag depending on what was going on with the specific client each month as to the specific deliverables that they would get. But now that we identified, okay, well, this isn't performing the way that we wanted it to. It's better than waiting for the writer, but it's not getting the depth of content that we really want to produce great content for our clients. So we had to then pull this content production assistant aside and say, okay, well, how are we going to fix this? And the simple fact of the matter was we had to create 3 of these, okay? So now we would have a service page assistant. Then we would have a blog assistant. So an article / blog assistant. And then we would also have a case study assistant. Now, these are all being fed a brief. The step before the initial content production assistant here was create the brief for the AI content assistant. This is still happening. So there is still a brief that is being created. But the brief is being passed to each one of these assistants depending on the type of brief that it is. So this was all being built out in make.com, which is the automation platform that we would use. So we would build in a router here that would kind of sit between these that would say, okay, depending on what type of what type of brief this is, you're going to funnel the brief to the right assistant. Hopefully that makes sense. So if we think about the service page assistant, why is this different to these ones? So the service page assistant, if we think about the breakdown of the type of content that we wanted this to produce, it was very specific. There would be a headline and introduction that was, specific to the service and area. Then there would be a problems section. So what are the problems that this service kind of solves? Then there would be a benefits section. Then there would be a service section, which explains about the service. So how does the service work? And then there would also be some sort of pricing section as well. So you can see it was very specific, the type of page that was being built for this type of content. So what we ended up doing was actually breaking out the assistant into multiple modules, multiple prompts, right? So rather than just having one assistant here, because what we found is the word count that one assistant was able to put out in a consistent format wasn't there for us. It wasn't quite what we needed. So we actually broke it out into individual prompts that were highly specialized to just produce a great headline and introduction. Once it had done that, it would then roll on. It would bring this headline and introduction and the brief into the next prompt, which is the problem, and it would have a very clear prompt that would specify how to create the problem section, benefits section, and so on and so forth. So every time it rolls through each one of these, it pulls through the information to the next one, so that at the end, it produces a final output. And we did the same thing for the article and blog assistant and the case study assistant as well. Each one of these types of content has its own structure that we were trying to stick to. And you can see now it's kind of obvious, right? A content production assistant isn't going to be able to produce a consistently formatted and structured output for each one of these different types of content. It feels obvious now, but at the time it wasn't, and again, if we come back over here, this is just one of the insights that we gained from the usage of the tool. So it enabled us to come back in and refine this. I actually have a breakdown in another video where it kind of shows this process of how we broke this down into individual modules. It was a very early version of it, and we have refined it since, but you can go and check that out. I'll link it up in the top somewhere. So I just wanted to show you the importance of getting feedback from an automation that you've built. There has to be somebody in charge of running the automation workflow, being in charge of that whole process and gathering feedback on where it needs improvement, why it isn't working in the best way that it could be. And that's our job, is to come back in and refine as we adopt an automation mindset. We have to be doing this as business owners. I'm a small business owner, you're a small business owner. This is a mindset shift that we have to continually come back to and reiterate on. And I can tell you for free as well that this wasn't perfect either. And we still had to refine how these prompts worked in each one of these and make it a better process over time. So I hope that's helpful. This wraps up the AIR framework that I've developed. I use it in my own businesses. I use it with the clients that I work with, because it's just a very simple framework to be able to think about automation and implementing AI into your business. It's not overly complicated. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. We just need to assess in a clear way. We need to implement what we believe would be an improvement, and then we need to collect the data and then refine over time to just continually optimize our processes. Hopefully these videos have helped you out. They've helped you clarify your thinking around implementing AI and automation into your business. If they have, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.